Hello, my tiny little tentacles. It's Carla, and today I am going to be making creamy tomato seafood pasta, and I'm going to be making it with squids. I wasn't originally going to make this recipe with squids, but I posted a photo of the dish midway through development to my stories, and some of you eagle eyes out there spotted tentacles because I was going to make this a creamy tomato shrimp pasta. You know what is crazy? No shrimp at Wegmans, only frozen shrimp. I didn't want frozen shrimp because I had to work on it that night, so I strolled over to another area where the gentle person there told me to go, and there upon me were really beautiful looking scallops and some really nice squids. I bought squids and I bought scallops and I did everything exactly the same. And I posted the photo and then everybody went crazy for tentacles. I just decided to lean into the squid of it all. If you're not down with squid, you could definitely use scallops. You could use the peeled shrimp. Those would both be great. Or you could do a little seafood combo. But if you want to go for it with the squids, I recommend doing so. If everything I'm saying is upsetting to you, every time I say squid, you in your mind can just substitute shrimp. Those were the tentacles. If they're really tiny, like the ones that I got at Wegmans, you don't have to cut them in half. But some of these were large. There's always one extra long one. We're gonna honor them by keeping them extra long. Maybe in the end they'll tangle into a spaghetti and we won't even know. Sometimes the bodies are already cut into rings. If not, I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. You can do this with a pair of shears if you want to. This is 1/2 inch. I don't really know. As you guys know, my spatial things are a little bit wonky. Then we'll have some nice little rings in the pasta. If you don't want a ring and you want flat pieces, I would just go into the body, slice it open. I don't know why, just for shits and giggles. Like sometimes the spirit moves you in a different way. And then it could be some nice strips. I kind of like this because it's actually thinner than the ring, which has 2 walls, if you know what I mean. It's really just one wall that keeps going around, but it has an inner and an outer. The other thing I'm doing is I'm just putting the squid on a little tray that's been lined with a clean kitchen towel just to absorb any liquid.
This episode is sponsored by Skims. For me, the most comfortable thing about wearing a bra, if I'm going to wear a bra at all, is that it is comfortable. And that is why I am a serial monogamist when it comes to my Skims bras. On the days when we shoot these videos, I am standing here in my very own kitchen for about 10 hours. And I have a lot to think about. I have to think about my performance. I have to think about the recipe. I have to think about making the food look good. I have to think about fire. I have to think about knives. The last thing I want to be thinking about is whether wires are digging into my sweet, sweet skin or straps are slipping off or whether my cups are gapping. I want to put something on that feels buttery soft and more importantly, I don't have to think about it again. Case in point, the no-show balconette bra that I am wearing right now. It is invisible under my clothes. It gives me a nice and secure place to clip my mic that isn't going to be slipping all over my body all day. And more importantly, I'm just going to forget that I'm wearing it. If I am uncomfortable, and I know that so many people understand what this feels like, I will be distracted. I will be cranky. And if I am cranky, you're going to see it on my face. And if you can see it on my face, then the joy and reverie in which we are approaching these recipes will be completely lost. That is how important having a good bra is. It is literally the entire day, whether it is a good day or a crazy making day. I'm sure by now I've convinced you to shop Skims bras at skims.com/Carla. Skims bras are now available in 62 sizes from 30A to 46H. We love that. It is actually incredible. After you place your order, make sure that Skims knows I sent you. Select YouTube in the survey and then select my channel in the drop-down menu so they know whose boobies are taking care of yours. My boobies will thank you.
This is a very summery seafood pasta. I actually made it on vacation in July because we'd been cooking every night and I was like, I just want an easy dinner tonight. Something really simple. Let's make pasta. Beautiful Sungold tomatoes. So it's a fresh tomato sauce that has very few ingredients and it comes together really quickly. And what makes it creamy is not the cream, it's the blending. So I put this sauce into a blender. The oil and the butter that I use in the sauce then blend in with the tomato and it gives it this really luscious texture. Maybe you don't want to blend them and that's totally fine. Cosmo Cassini Music, my child, does not like bits of tomato. And since he would be dining with us that evening, I blended the tomatoes. By blending the sauce, that allowed me to do a couple of other things that is just sort of like makes everything go fast and easy, which is roughly chopping the garlic and the shallot because they're going to end up blended. So you don't have to like finely slice them or make them pretty or anything like that. It can just kind of go into the pan like nice and chunky from the beginning. When I was off on vacation, I was getting produce from Balsam Farms, which is a farm in Amagansett that I love and been going to for many, many years. And they had the like purple skinned garlic that the cloves are just gigantic and like crazy juicy and delicious. Like really not thinking about it too much. Rough pieces over there. And same for the shallot. If you don't have a shallot, you're just gonna use a different allium. You're gonna use red onion, you're gonna use yellow onion. Leek, you could get into some like green garlic. You could get into some bulb onions, which are so beautiful. And a lot of that stuff, summer is over. So this is what happened. I had my birthday. My birthday is August 15th. Mark your calendar. Send me a DM. It's never too late. If it were to rain every single day after August 15th, I would feel that that was like, that makes sense. So if you manage to squeak a little bit of joy out of September or October, let it be in the shoulder months, the harvest moon, the last little growing season, the last hurrah, because you will find quite beautiful produce. I don't know, it's just one of the little things that we have, I guess, to keep us going before eternal darkness descends. Anyway, lots of nice alliums in the shoulder months. Now I'm a little sad. I had my birthday dinner this weekend. It was fantastic. I was with my family. My parents are growing tomatoes, which we have here, a few little Sungolds, and these are really beautiful. They're black on the vine, like a purple black, and then when they ripen, they're this color. We had lobsters, we had tomato salad, we had corn. It was everything and then some. My younger child, Cosmo, told me it was the funnest birthday dinner of my birthday dinners he could remember ever having. My other child was sitting next to me at dinner, and during dinner, he kept putting his hand around me and like rubbing my shoulder and like giving me a little squeeze. It was the best. Shallot and garlic, I'm gonna set over here. That's gonna be the beginning of our sauce. So the first time I made the dish, again, scallops and squid, because that was what Wegmans wanted for me. It was good, but it was a little all one texture. So then for the second round of development, added a parsley, anchovy, garlicky, lemony breadcrumb. And so that's what this parsley is for. The older son works in a restaurant this summer. We were making something together over the weekend and I asked him at work, what happens with herb stems? And he was like, we use literally everything. It all gets chopped up and put into the salsa verdes and all of the green sauces and everything else. So I'm keeping some of that nice parsley stem. Just gonna take this down a bit more because it's going into breadcrumbs. So we don't want it too coarse, but I also am not a big believer in like chopping the hell out of my herbs. They need to be free. Parsley for breadcrumb. So that's it for prep. Small skillet, medium-high heat, kicking off breadcrumbs with 4 tablespoons of olive oil, also known as a 1/4 cup, also known as 2 ounces. I think that's 56 mil. So this will go pretty quickly. I'm using panko. If you want to use a fresh breadcrumb of your choosing, that's fine. I like the craggy texture of the panko, so if you're blitzing your own, just leave them a little bit coarse. Oops. Well, we're doing it that way. I was supposed to add a couple anchovies, but I'm gonna add them now. So olive oil, anchovy, then breadcrumb. You'll adjust at home. I'm just gonna drop the anchovy into the oily part around the edge. They will melt. You will not know that they are there. They are gonna be really nice with your seafood flavors. It's gonna complement and coordinate and do all of that good stuff. This is gonna go pretty quickly. I'm just gonna season with salt and black pepper. You wanna keep the breadcrumbs moving, and if it feels like things are happening too fast, lower the heat. It's totally fine. They will get there. We're just going medium high. Here, there's a good amount of oil coating the crumbs, and that's what's going to help them take on color really evenly. And they're just gonna be more delicious in the end and hold on to all that flavor. Despite putting the anchovies in second, they are breaking into tiny pieces. You can leave them out if you want to. It is totally fine. I do think they bring a little je ne sais quoi to the whole situation. We're taking on a little bit of color. I'm gonna grate a couple of garlic cloves directly in. And once this grated garlic hits, you do want to keep things moving and make sure that the garlic kind of disperses into the breadcrumb. Garlic wants to stick together. So even though it's finely grated, once it gets in there, it just wants to stay with itself. Just make sure to move it around, make sure that it doesn't clump up. And this smells really incredible. Very nice and toasty. Honestly, I think there's enough residual heat in the pan. I'm going to kill the heat. And we're going to save the rest of this lemon for using the juice later. And I'm just going to zest the whole lemon directly into this mixture. This is nice and warm. It's oily. The lemon zest itself has those gorgeous essential oils. It is making my hands no longer be garlicky as I grate and turn. And this amount is going to go straight in. It's going to smell incredible. And we want to keep that really fresh lemon flavor. So that's why it goes in right at the end rather than early. And then the parsley. This is like this little anchovy lemon parsley breadcrumb. I mean, you might have a little bit left over, and it is just so good to sprinkle on a savory yogurt sauce. You could put it on half an avocado, sprinkle it into a salad. It would be kind of a great alt for croutons in a Caesar. You could put on any of your pastas. You could put on fried eggs. It's just like added value breadcrumb. And I kept it on the counter airtight for like 3 days or more, and nothing happened to it. All right, so these are just gonna go to cool down into the same thing that I had the parsley in. All right, so those are done. They're gonna cool down, sit on the counter while I make the tomato sauce. This sauce is one of the rare times that I like to combine butter and olive oil. There is something about a buttery, fresh tomato sauce that doesn't cook for very long that is just tantalizing and exquisite. It also helps with that creamy texture later, so there is a little bit of dairy happening here. If you are a dairy-free person, just increase the amount of olive oil, but this is 2 tablespoons of butter and 3 tablespoons of olive oil. So it's a nice amount of fat, which again is gonna lend itself to the texture of the finished sauce. And it cooks so quickly that you want to have like just a nice amount of fat in the bottom of the pan. More anchovies. Again, you can go anchovy free if you want, but we're building a lot of flavor with a tiny little fish. And this brand, actually, Agostino Recca, there's a chef who on her Instagram, she does the most hardcore tinned fish taste tests. And so I watched her eat like 8 different brands of anchovy, and this one, which is really widely available, was her favorite. So I feel great about that. Chopped shallot, chopped garlic. I'm gonna season this with salt and black pepper. Whoop. There's some chili flake happening later. And this is gonna help all of the juices release from the shallot. Because these are nice and chunky and we're over medium high, I'm gonna cover this and let it steam for a sec. What I'm looking for is some nice color on the shallot and for the garlic to be totally smushable with the back of the wooden spoon. So that's like a 2 to 3 minute situation under pressure. You can hear how juicy and steamy things are getting, and that's really just the liquid that's coming off of the shallot, primarily a little bit of the garlic, but it's fun to like listen to it building up on the underside of the lid and dripping down into the pot. The reason we want to open back up and check is because we are not using those glass lids, which I don't understand at all, because don't they get foggy and steamy and you can't see through them anyway? They make no sense to me. I'm seeing light golden brown color on the garlic, brown around the edges of the shallot, and these are smushable. Gorgeous and beautiful. Sungolds are going in. Frankie and Carol's tomatoes going in for good measure. Okay, tomatoes. The first stage of this cooking, very similar. I have a burst tomato sauce with chicken cutlets from That Sounds So Good. Add a little more salt for the tomatoes. And then some chili flake. This juicy filled packet is gonna hit the heat. It's gonna expand. The skin splits. Once the skin splits, the tomato juices start coming out. And that's the balance that you wanna hit between juiciness coming out and heat not being so high that you totally evaporate all of the juices coming out. Another little trick that I ended up doing in this recipe as a total concession to Cosmo is I'm going to add the basil in whole sprigs. This child, even though he is so much better than he was when he was little, still, if a green fleck is in, he might not love it as much as he would if there wasn't green stuff in it. So the entire basil stem, the basil leaves, the basil essence is going to infuse into the tomatoes in the pot. And then before blending, I just pluck them out. If you're not blending, just pluck them out. If you like chopped basil, chop the basil. Lots of juiciness in the bottom of the pan. Not all of them are split. I'm gonna cover the pan again. We're gonna go back steaming era. Build up some heat, build up some pressure, explode the tomatoes. And what I'm looking for is shriveledness with like max juiciness as the end point. Big pot of salted water coming up to a boil. Been about 3 minutes. Wow, these look gorgeous and insane. Extreme juice. The juice is not reducing. It's not like caramelizing. And the tomatoes are like in this state of their life. So they've broken, they're releasing, but they still have like some body to them. So I'm gonna keep going for like 1 or 2 more minutes until they're all a little bit more like this guy. So still have nice tomato flesh, but just a little bit more like surrendered, honestly. Last little nudge of love in here. Yes, this is what I want to see. So there's about as much tomato liquid as needed to like come to the surface of the tomatoes. So I'm removing the basil. Honestly, if you blended it, it'd probably be delicious. It would just make the sauce like have a little bit of a greenish tint to it. It's not gonna be bad though. I mean, it's still like so, everything in here is like not cooked to death. It's just cooked to like submission. This is so juicy. I almost can't like deal with it. Older child who does not mind having tomato texture in his situations was like, why are you blending it? Like he would like to see the whole Sungold is such a glorious texture. They're such a special tomato. And so like, yeah, to each his own, and hers and theirs. The color is bananas. I'm really just focusing on getting the solids. And just because this blender is so full, I'm gonna pour some of the liquid back. If you have a bigger blender or using a hand blender, you don't really have to do this. I just don't want this blender like max full. See the line? Max liquid. She's being safe and careful. And if you're blending this in a standard blender jar, make sure you open the little steam valve on top. I'm using the Ninja and somehow it doesn't explode. Pulsing, long pulses. I think I'm pulsing because it's so hot in here that even in a big blender, I would want to do pulses to let some of the steam out. So even though we're in a contained environment here, it just feels better to me to pulse. Done and done. So now opening is where there could be like a steamy sauce explosion. So just be careful. Not like explosion. Explosion's like, but like that was steam escaping. Same with like opening any lid, frankly. Lovely. All right, so you can tell this is lightened. It's super creamy. It's fully emulsified. There's little flecks of skin, but hardly any. My pasta water is boiling. And since we're gonna use pasta water anyway to bring the sauce together in the end, I'm gonna take some now just to rinse out the blender. I wanna get every last bit of the sauce that's left in the blender. This is like rinsing out the tomato can before you put it in the ragu. So just keep that in mind. That was probably about half a cup of pasta liquid. So normally I would add around a cup of pasta cooking liquid. You've already added partial. Went back and forth on the pasta shape. At the beginning I had the really ruffly long ones that are called malfadine. They were great, but they almost overwhelmed everything. So we went in the end with like a thick spaghetti. I think thick spaghetti is a great choice, or regular spaghetti. But honestly, if you want to have fun with it, or you want to use like a big shell or something with a fun shape like that, there's actually a shape that it translates as snail shell. That would be fun. I did address the difference between a shiny pasta and a coarse pasta in my shorts, so you can check that video out. Okay, so then make note of the cook time. This says 11 minutes. I'm gonna set my timer for 9 so that it can finish cooking and absorb the sauce at the very end and not get overcooked. Holding off on the seafood until literally the last minute. Pasta is almost al dente. The sauce is back up at a simmer. Very, very, very gentle. And I'm gonna add the squids, and essentially we're just poaching them in this tomato sauce. So they'll release a little bit of their liquid as they cook, and a scallop would do the same, a shrimp would do the same. So you'll get their flavor going into the sauce and then the sauce going into them in this really beautiful way. And that's it. Like the squid has curled up, it's opaque, it's done. That took like 30, 45 seconds. Gorgina. Let's look at a tentacle. And the key here is like cooking gently, cooking for a short amount of time is gonna yield the tenderness. Yum, the sauce is so sweet from the tomato. I wanna taste it again all together because my breadcrumbs are seasoned. My instinct is to add a little more salt, but I have salty pasta and pasta water. So I'm just gonna hold off and taste it again once the pasta's in. Oops, I really want that, guys, sorry. Oh my God, let it go, let it go. All right, this is incredibly saucy and incredibly juicy, which is good because this kind of more rough artisanal bronze cut pasta is going to absorb a ton of the sauce, and it's just gonna be like extra creamy, oh, and extra tasty. Hell yeah. Okay, final stages here. Tossing and glossing, which the sauce itself is so gorgeous and emulsified anyway. Pasta's perfectly cooked. Last thing is a squeeze of lemon. It's just gonna wake everything back up again, cut through some of that sweetness that I was noticing when I just tasted the sauce on its own. And then after this lemon is in, the pasta water, the salty pasta itself, I want to taste it one more time and adjust that. See if I need the other half of the lemon or not. But this looks absolutely sickening in the best possible way. I'm just giving it a taste. Does need salt, which is great. That's why we taste. Gives a little extra pep. The other thing we get to decide is, I think I like the flat pieces of the squid. So that's the way the flat ones look. And then you have the rings. I don't know, I feel like the flat ones gave a little bit more of an interesting shape. Look at those, are cute. They're like little pig's tails. Super tender, non-chewy at all. Oh yeah, that tastes like George Clooney and Capri. And this is what everybody loved so much in the photo I posted online. The little tentacle. I was so happy. I love a tentacle, frankly. The final touch, the beautiful breadcrumbs. This is delicious without them, but it is superlative with. And it needs the crunch, it really does. It looks gorgeous, but what I'm missing is my tentacle. So we're gonna unearth the tentacle. I think the tentacle should be represented. I think squid are so cool. They're like down in the depths. Oh God, that's a good bite, right? They like fly, they have such a cool swimming style. This happens from time to time. I know I taste stuff a lot on screen, but once in a while, the time that I make the dish for the shoot is the best it ever tasted of all of the other times, which is counterintuitive because we have to stop and start and thing. But this is one of those times that it all came together. This is a banger, guys. Don't sleep on the squid. Someone asked in the comments the other day, do you have a garbage can right off the edge of the counter, or is it like a magical chute that goes straight to like a trash depository? It's just a garbage can right there. I thought that was really funny though, because it's been a minute since we had trash bunnies.
Yeah.